Greetings, everyone. This is Mike Riley, the voice of Ironman. And this is the Old School Tri Show with my Kiwi mates Cameron Harper and Brian Ashby. The show that talks about all things triathlon, old and new. We're powered by Ansco Foods, bringing you nutrition and good health from New Zealand's beef and lamb. Thanks for listening, everyone. Enjoy the show.
Welcome along to another episode of the Old School Tri Show, brought to you by our great mates at Ansco Foods. And today, Brian, another outstanding Kiwi.
Indeed, and this is somebody that I guess the word determination doesn't even begin to describe this person. She finished second on 3 occasions before she finally got her maiden win in Taupo, Karyn Ballance.
Ansco Foods is proud to be the new naming partner of Ironman New Zealand, ensuring every stroke, pedal and stride is powered by the best nature has to offer. Ansco Foods is on a mission to bring nutrition and good health from New Zealand's finest beef and lamb. Ansco Foods, putting the iron in Ironman with New Zealand's finest beef and lamb. Visit anscofoods.com/Ironman to find out more.
So in the very first episode of the Old School Tri Show, we spoke to Scott Molina, the great Scott Molina. And at the end of that chat, Scott Molina said to us, "Oh, look, I'm so looking forward to hearing all these other people that you talk to. I'm really looking forward to hearing you guys talk to Karyn Ballance." So who are we to disappoint the Terminator? Karyn Ballance joins us now. Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good, great to have you on board. And look, it's funny. We look at your record at Ironman New Zealand, the 40th anniversary race coming up in March of 2024, and you were a huge contributor to the event for a whole lot of years. But we just sort of wonder, in the early days, your early sporting interests, your journey to getting to an Ironman, because I don't think you were overly enamored initially with the distance and things. What were your early sort of sporting interests that steered you in the direction of triathlon and then ultimately to Ironman?
I did running. I did Harrier running at Olympic Harriers in Wellington, and I was okay. And I always wanted to be really good at something, but I was okay at running. And I had a year at university, and at the end of when I was 20, at the end of university, that year, I went to the Gold Coast with a friend, and we stayed at her place up in Runaway Bay on the Gold Coast. And I decided before I went, because I was overweight and had drunk lots of beer that year, as you sometimes do in your first year at university, and I thought, no, I really want to get into running. And so there was a running track down the road, and I joined the running club and went to all their training nights and thought I'd, get seriously into that. And then I met a girl there. I ended up having to flat with her because my friend needed to go home. And this woman was into triathlons. And so staying with her, I watched what she did, and she'd go off and do some bike rides and swimming. And there was going to be a race at the end of the summer, maybe about March or February, probably before university, February. I didn't really do much training. I'd bike out to... I got some jobs in the theme parks and would bike out to, what is it?
Dreamworld or something like that.
Yeah, Dreamworld, yes.
Yeah.
And it was all farmland then. And
not now.
I suppose that's the only biking I did, but I kept running, and then I swam a little bit in the pool there. Anyway, I did this triathlon. And this girl could see that I was a useless swimmer. But anyway, she couldn't believe how well I did in the end. I really came through the field. I didn't get in the top placing, but I might have got in the top 10. But it was against all these Gold Coast people, and I can't think of their names. But that was kind of the hub of triathlon anyway.
Yeah.
And, I came back and thought, I want to do triathlons.
Yeah. Because I know we spoke to your husband Scott last night, and he talked about I think meeting you in about 1992 at a swim squad, and so on. Then so was that you obviously you weren't too bad as a runner. The biking thing you was the big commute. So I guess swimming was being so technical was the big learn from that point on.
Yeah, I was never very good at it, and but I joined the same squad that Scott and I ended up going to. Yeah, and that's where I started my swimming.
Yeah. So in terms of you're back in New Zealand and you decide you like this thing, triathlon and stuff. So where did it sort of go from there?
That must have been the beginning of '92, and I met Scott in the end of '92, and that's I went and I must have gone and saw Arthur Clapp, who was
Yeah.
in our club, our running club, and I asked him for some help because I knew he did triathlons. I knew it was going around in the background, but I didn't really know what happened with triathlon in Wellington. I didn't ever take any notice of it until I came back from the Gold Coast. And he helped me work out a program. Yeah, and then I think I met Scott in November of '92, and then I might have had a race maybe a few weeks after I met him, or 3 weeks. And I remember borrowing his, he let me borrow his disc wheel for this women's race. And I didn't really have any idea how I would go, but I just flew. Yeah. And I think Jill won that day.
Jill Weston,
and
right?
I think I got second.
Yeah.
But I might have been third to Joe Holden. I can't remember, but I wasn't very good getting out of the water, and then I just absolutely caned it on the bike, and then running was fine.
Yeah.
And then that was the start.
As a podium, Karyn, that's a very impressive podium, regardless of the order.
Yeah. It was, because they were both very experienced women, and no, it was amazing.
Yeah. So those early ones that you're doing, you've got this boyfriend who is on the cusp of becoming New Zealand Ironman champion, and he's doing this sort of these batshit crazy distances and stuff like that. What did you think of that? What were you doing in terms of the distances were you doing, and what were you aspiring to do at that time?
I don't think I knew what he was doing. I'm pretty sure I didn't really know how long those bike rides and stuff were. I think I was just trying to work out my own thing. And at the end of that summer, the goal was to do my first standard course. I mean, he probably was the reverse and thought, oh my gosh, to me, because I remember thinking and asking, gosh, what do you do for a 10K run? What do you carry and all this stuff? But I mean, so I remember running, it was the national champs up in Tauranga. I remember wearing a bum bag thing with my drink on it and thinking, what do you eat? And blimey, 15 years later, you wouldn't even think about doing anything like that in the standard course. But
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And duathlon featured quite prominently for you in the early days, because I mean, obviously that was your
it did actually.
your
I'd
strength.
forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I did a number of duathlon championships in New Zealand, and then I went to Zofingen a number of times. Loved that race.
Yeah. And how did that sort of go? I mean, that's a brutally tough race.
Yeah, the best place I think I got was 4th or 5th, and that's when I lived in Christchurch.
Yeah.
I did it once. I did it twice, I think, and I went with Scott when I lived in Wellington. I don't remember what year. I don't even remember the place I got in the first time I did it, but I know the women's team, which was made up of myself, Debbie Nelson back then, and Jill and Fiona McKeith, 4 of us, I think we won the women's team, because I think Debbie got 3rd that year.
That is quite a team.
It was really cool.
That's a very impressive team when you look at what collectively what you've all achieved. In
and the weird
sport.
thing is when I look back at that picture, because I was young then, they all came to our wedding like years later, which is kind of funny, because we weren't really friends. I wasn't friends with Debbie then,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny.
Well, Debbie Nelson, I guess, as we carry on our chat, will probably start to feature a bit more prominently in the conversation for people watching the Old School Tri Show that aren't familiar. Debbie sort of went on to win at Zofingen, and a world title there, which was really cool. So as the sort of years march on, and you're Miss Karen Mills at this stage and stuff, and you're building up, and eventually you get to a point. What sort of tip to got you to the point of thinking, you know what, I'm going to have a crack at this Ironman thing. I'm going to give it a go. What?
I asked Scott that this morning in preparation for this, and because I don't actually remember. It wasn't. You're right that it wasn't really ever a plan. I mean, I love the half Ironman distance. Just loved it. You could just go hard out for that whole time, and food and eating was all. I don't know. It was just. Yeah, it was a great distance. I really loved that. And also, I did love standard course as well.
Yeah.
I suppose if I think about it, Scott reminded me, the reason was there was only a limit to, things were changing in the sport of triathlon. So you had to draft. You had to do that drafting business. It changed, and I just can't do that. I'm not a very good swimmer. So, I tried it once. I did maybe 3 races. And the first one I did, I called Scott in my togs after the swim, and halfway through the bike, it was in Quebec, and I was dead last. And, you just couldn't, because you're so slow in the swim, you can't, there's no drafting, there's no one there. I remember calling him from the phone booth. Oh my gosh. Anyway, but I gave it a go, and it was just no good. So, I can see now you could do a lot more half Ironman, if I had my time again,
Yeah.
But back then there weren't that many half Ironman races just in New Zealand and things. So, and then I suppose money-wise, the next thing, and I was good at endurance. Why not try Ironman?
Yeah. Did you run a marathon before going to an Ironman, or was your first?
I did one. Yeah, I did the Auckland one, and I think I did 2:59. Yeah, that was one goal. I would love to have done a fast marathon, but in the end, I never did.
That sounds pretty quick from where I'm standing, Karen.
I really wanted to do under 2:50 actually, or 2:45, but never.
That Auckland Marathon, it's a tough marathon at the best of times, that one, isn't it? But geez, it's still impressive though.
Yeah.
It was young. I was quite young when I did that.
Yeah. I was going to ask. Sorry, I was just going to ask, sort of, what sort of age range were you in these sort of times when you were, preparing, when you did the Auckland Marathon? You sort of early mid-20s kind of thing.
Yeah. We came to Christchurch when I was 27, so that must have, it must have been years before that. And some other fun races I loved. I did all sorts of things, before I turned into Ironman. I did the race up the Sky Tower in Auckland.
Really?
The first time, that was I got second in that to Marie Bunce. That was amazing. And I did some mountain running. Went to World Mountain Running Champs, and if I had my time, I suppose at the time I found Ironman took a lot out of me. And Scott was the same. We couldn't do many Ironman races in a year, and especially close to close, and so that meant a lot of other events I couldn't do in the end, really, because you were just recovering from a race or building up for another one.
Wellington, there's sort of the mountain running culture is quite a thing, isn't it? Where you look at, say, yourself, later on, Kate McElroy, Melissa Moon, and so on. That's a real Wellington thing, wasn't it?
Jonathan White.
Yes, yeah.
It was good fun.
Yeah. So eventually you sort of you get to the start line at Ironman New Zealand in 1999. What were your expectations? Because your result is pretty damned impressive.
I don't remember what the goal was. I don't think the goal was a place. It would have just been to do some times, I would have thought. I can't remember, but just go through the motion. And see how it goes.
So, you for the record, Melissa Spooner won it. You smashed out a 3:07 marathon, which is super impressive. And Lisa Bentley, who we'll hear talk a bit more about her, I guess in the next few minutes, but came in third. So, how did the day play out for you, and how did you sort of feel afterwards about the whole experience?
I can't remember. I remember it was raining pretty much all day.
Yeah.
And I loved the swim. I think that was the only time that the swim went out from the yacht club, went left, you did a turn, and then it came down through the channel. Oh, that was fantastic. I loved that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember where I got out of the water. And I remember on the bike, I don't remember if it was the first lap. I think it might have been the first lap that I caught up to. Well, unless it was out near the turnaround, and I couldn't be sure if it was the first lap or the second lap. I got out there, and I remember catching up to Jan Wanklin, and there was a whole lot of other women all within this turnaround. And I remember distinctly, like it was yesterday, I remember asking her, how hard should you be going, at the moment? How hard should this be feeling? And she said, oh, you should be going hard. And I said, oh, right. And I just took off because I didn't really know how hard it should feel. It felt easy. I think, I asked her, it was fair enough. And she was very kind in saying what you should do. And so I just took off.
There wouldn't always be the case with multiple winners of that event would be that kind.
No, I guess not. She possibly knew who I was because of following Scott in the Ironman a number of times. And
and look,
was nice.
Jane's just a very nice and generous lady at the best, so it doesn't surprise us that she gave advice.
So you get to the end of the cycle, and you've got your big weapon to come, the marathon. So where were you sort of sitting when you got off the bike, and how were you sort of feeling about your prospects at that stage?
No idea. No. I don't even know what place I was.
I don't
know. I don't know. I don't know. I remember that I think I ran with Robin Rook for quite a while, only because I remember the videos and it being wet. Yeah, I don't think I ever saw Melissa Spooner up the road. I do remember saying to Scott after the race, I said, did you see that guy out there wearing a T-shirt and a hat? He was going for a jog. And he said, no, that's Tim de Boom. He won it. He just looked like he was cruising. I remember that. But I don't remember. No, I don't remember really.
The top three that day, Karyn, because it was you in second, and Melissa Spooner, as Brian was saying, and Lisa Bentley third. I mean, there's only 3 minutes 59, 4 minutes between first and second that day. I mean, and you were quick. You were 3:07 against almost a 3:10. So you were making up time. It just looked like a matter of running out of real estate in the end.
Yeah, and because it was just such an unknown. Well, I did the best I could. Yeah. I just was doing all I could do. Yeah, it was just such an unknown. And I mean, she did well in Hawaii that year or the year before. So, but I didn't really know it at the time. I didn't know anything about the people I was against. Yeah,
and you sort of, I mean, these are people who've competed well in Hawaii. Robin Rook had, gone top 15, and Melissa Jan, all these people. So the reputations, essentially, to paraphrase, were you a little bit naive in terms of the people you were racing against? You just reputation.
I'd say so. I had no idea, and it wasn't of a concern. I don't think. Yeah. Later on, I remember every other year you get to know people, and I remember, gosh, you'd find out who the people were that were going to come and race. I don't know. It was maybe about a month before. I remember you'd hear on the radio, maybe Brian, you'd be saying in the morning, "Oh, such and such is coming to the New Zealand Ironman," and I remember every other year I knew them and I thought, oh my gosh, all those good people, but no, I didn't know that first year.
But the thing is, it's actually not racing with no pressure is a beautiful place to be, isn't it? And not many people in their career actually get that opportunity to do so.
Yeah, true. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself, though, so I might be talking with a lot of hindsight and not recalling, because I'm sure I was nervous. I would have been really nervous. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself and for a long time didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Cameron.
I was just going to say at the end of that first race, Karyn, we've had a few people we've talked to on the show said, I got to the end of my first one, I went, nah, never again. I hate it. Nah, never. I'm never ever doing one of those ever again. Were you at that camp, or you're like, oh, actually, that wasn't too bad?
That one, I don't think I said that, but later on, maybe the second time I did one, I think I absolutely hated it. Yeah. I don't think I did for that first one. I think I was really surprised and really happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that sort of segues nicely into the 2000 race, because that was the first time I went to Ironman, and I'd met you and Scott, our good media buddy Ian Heppenstall had introduced us at Coast to Coast about 6 weeks beforehand, and it was an insane day of 35-degree temperatures, and I was like, holy hell, I just don't believe what I'm seeing. And the showdown that you had that day, Lisa Bentley eventually sort of prevailed, and Robin Rook was there on you were second, and Robin on the other side of a complete contrast to what we'd seen before with the pouring rain. Just tell us about how that day unfolded for you and the feeling of sort of coming second again.
Well, only two things do I really remember about that day, and it started really cold. But we did know that it was going to get really hot. I remember it being frosty, I think, out on the bike.
Wow.
And I don't. I had to look up the results for that one because I knew I went. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think I enjoyed it, and I think it's possibly the heat. I'm never very good in the heat. But I do remember at the press conference just being totally exhausted. And what was it, the year after that? I don't know. But anyway.
It was that year. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. Yeah. I don't know why. Actually. Possibly the heat. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a hard race.
And it does get incredibly, it is, down at Ironman New Zealand in Taupo, it does have that. It does some morning start really chilly. And back in those days, the bike ride out to Reparoa for the turnaround used to go through the forest. So we'd get quite cold in that forest going through those roads out there. It would get really cold. Then in the afternoon, you get into the marathon and, man, it would get stinking hot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting, though, because when I looked at those results the other day, because I thought it was the time I didn't enjoy it, they were quite slow. So I don't really know what it was about the day or...
It must have been the heat, because like your marathon was about 10 minutes slower than the previous year. Which that's not you, that's But I recall the press conference. I've always recalled it because Lisa was on that high of having had a win, and was all sort of bubbles, and Robin Rook was I love the sport, and then there was. And I was like, oh man, I don't really like this much at all.
No.
I'm not sure what I'm doing here. It's a wee bit silly, and they were sort of like, oh gosh, that's a little bit different.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you sort of think at the end of that you've gone back to back second, but were you thinking, maybe it's just not for me at all? Did you ever think about pulling the pin on it, or as time sort of passed, I can do this?
Well, I didn't have too many options, you see, because there weren't lots of half Ironman, but the Ironman races were where there was prize money, so I needed to do it really.
Yeah.
And I did always find it really hard, but mind you, everyone finds it hard. It's like Scott's often said to me, it was 10 Ks, 30 Ks too long on the bike and 10 Ks too long on the run, isn't it? If that was that much shorter, it would be a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
yeah.
In those days, Karyn, were you doing the Tauranga half Ironman first, and then coming over to this?
yeah,
It's always
yeah.
the way it worked through the Kiwi
I
summer.
tried to, but I must say, as I kept going, I got slower in Tauranga, and also the course changed, and I loved it when there was just an out and back and maybe 2 loops on the bike, but when it got all congested, I hated that. You couldn't really get extended, and it was quite a lot of people around, and just wasn't the same. Quite technical, and I'm not a technical bike rider. With all the corners and stuff, I was rubbish. So I ended up not doing it so much anymore.
Yeah, yeah. 2001, third time in a row, second place, Lisa Bentley, and we're starting to see the emergence of Joe Lawn, had stepped up from 4th the year previous and 3rd behind you this time. 3 times in a row, and you're that close to sort of stepping onto the top spot, but you can't quite nail it. So what was your sort of thought processes at that time, and how that race went, and what were you thinking about, what you had to change up, or what was sort of going on for you at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always wanted to win it. Well, in the end, I wanted to win it.
Yeah. Did you believe that you could win it deep down?
I did. But it was something about the year that I won it. I just knew I was going to win it. But that's silly, isn't it? Because you don't know. But I don't think I had done any less training, or I don't recall any injuries. I mean, I know later on I got injured. I don't know. But just sometimes things just work out, don't they? And I just felt very different the year that I did win. Maybe I was more relaxed. I really don't know.
It's interesting though, Karyn, because we were talking to Joe Lawn recently on the show, and she actually said very, very similar thing, that when she won the first time, she's like, I just had a really good day, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. It's on, and so it makes sense to hear that from another person who's won.
Yeah. I do remember reading at the time, you talked to Melina ahead of that 2002 race, and did your bike volume of your bike sort of training really go up big time, and
I
a lot
know,
of
I
time
asked
out on
him
the
for
road
some
with Debbie?
help. Yeah, I used to have Arthur Clapp coach me, and then I did ask for just to change things, just because it's nice it's good to have change, or just some. Maybe that is when I asked Scott. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but maybe if you remember reading that, then that is when I would have asked him, because I know I did, and I got and I did massive more biking than I ever had. Yeah.
And
so maybe that was for that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Can't remember.
And you smashed out on 2002. You get onto the top podium, 9:27 overall, and a 3:03 marathon. You're absolutely on fire that day, really, aren't you?
I did, and I did. I did know. I felt just amazing. I saw Scott on the bike, and I think I waved to him, because normally we'd wave, but I don't even know if I did put my arm up, but I saw him. And then I remember getting off the bike and Greg Welsh saying, I think he said I was 12 minutes, but it could have been 13 minutes behind the leader. 12 to 16, I can't remember, but I remember him saying this number, and it was in the teens. And I just remember thinking, oh, no problem.
Wow. It was Lindley Ellison?
That was in the transition area.
Yeah. So, Lindley quickest off the bike, I think?
Yeah, she was first off the bike, and I just remember Greg saying a time, and it was between 12 and 16 minutes, and I just thought, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She had I remember that one. She had Lindley and Joe Lawn had great swims that day as well, so they had a bit of a gap in the swim, and Lindley had an on-fire bike, but then gee whiz, you're obviously like, look, hold my drink. I'm on my way through for the marathon here.
Yeah, I just knew. I mean, I think I must have been running fast at home. You know, in the Ironman, I used to, I mean, I don't know what they do now, but I had a little, in my bum bag where I carried all my weapons and things, I had a little laminated time chart that would tell me how many Ks. And, you know, if it was, I can't remember what I think I might have been trying to do a 3:05 or I don't know, but it would give me the split and would tell me, you know, so when you get to the 5K mark, that will be this. And so I just stuck by that. I think in my training, I just knew I was going to run that fast.
Yeah.
So do you remember your training block going exceptionally well, or was there any real reason for you to go, you know what, this is my day?
No, but I think I probably deep down I just knew. Well, no, I don't remember, and so maybe I'd ask Scott for some help, Scott Molina. Then I needed to win because I'd been second 3 times, but I don't think I felt the pressure. I think I just must have been so well prepared, but I was prepared the other times too. And, you know, and actually, and I did look the results up, that I went faster one time than when I got second. And that was really fast, right? I think Joe got the record that year.
Yeah, the next year. Yeah.
A few years later or something. And that, you know, you can have a great race and not win it.
Yeah, it happens. That's right. And but you know, suddenly you're on the top step of the podium and you've been on this journey with 3 seconds and self-doubt, I guess, through some of that and questioning this crazy silly event that your husband really loves and you're doing it too. What was that? Can you is it etched in your memory going down the finishing chute that day and the feeling?
Yeah. I remember even before the finishing chute, Scott had pulled out that day because I think he was having the first of his heart problems, and I saw him in Rainbow Point, and he must have called out to me, and I think he was a bit upset that I didn't even say hello to him or anything. I just ran straight past, and I was just totally focused the entire way. And I remember Jenny Rose being at the part where you go from the footpath onto the finish line, you know, about 200 meters. You can enjoy it now, Karyn. And I think I was pretty focused the whole way.
Yeah. Well, I remember while you're out on the course in the marathon and seeing Scott, and I knew he'd pulled out, and I said, you okay, man? He went, yeah, I'm fine. It's not every day you're going to get to see your girl win her first Ironman, and so he was maybe his focus was not on himself, and he was thinking about you.
Yeah,
so
I just knew I was going to win. Yeah.
And did that, having sort of got that one in the pocket, you finally the old cliche, climbed the Everest and stuff. Did that change anything for you once you'd won that?
I mean, it's amazing winning your own and winning a race. It's amazing. You don't get to win. Well, some people don't. It was amazing, and it was huge. I worked full time, and I, had a lot of pressure. I put pressure on myself, so it was a huge relief. I remember being really emotional about it. Yeah. I remember preparing the speech at the prize giving and just really crying as I was writing it out. But when I spoke, I don't know, I was fine. But it was huge to win it. Such a lot of hard work. Early mornings. Running it. I remember experimenting, being at work for an 8:30 meeting, but going for a 3-hour run beforehand and thinking, no, actually, I'm going to have to do that in the evening will be a lot better than getting up at 4:30. But a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Now, in an alternate world, and thank goodness this didn't happen, but if you'd got another second or third that day, would you have continued, do you think, or would you have gone, you know what, I don't know about this? Or what? Do you remember what your mindset was like in those days?
I just needed to win it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I did need to win it, and if I didn't win it, maybe I would have stopped. Maybe that's kind of in the middle of my brain. I'm thinking I might have thought that. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. It's such a long time ago, but I think I was I think it might have been do or die, but I didn't feel that pressure that I think probably, I needed to win it.
Yeah. Well, you did, and it was really cool. It was people were really
It
sort of
was cool.
going for you that day because
Yeah, it was amazing.
you'd had those 3 seconds, and so
Yeah.
just everyone was just so thrilled for you. It was really special. Yeah.
What's it like? Because I'm never going to know. What's it like when you go through and you grab the finish line banner and you're crossing through first, and the banner's there and the people are there and it's going crazy? That must be just something that you will never forget. I mean, it must be pretty cool.
It was, and the funny thing is, though, just overwhelming, really, just a relief, just I don't. You do hear people. What's such a long day, isn't it? And you just need to get to that finish line.
Well, it's such a long day for us, but not so much you. So don't rub it in too much. We're out there a lot longer, a lot longer than you.
And it's a long preparation. That's the thing, isn't it? It's getting to the start line is amazing for anybody.
Yeah, it's the first win. Yeah,
it is. It absolutely is with Ironman. So.
Yeah, you mentioned before, like it was the next year, and Joe won it, and you came second, and you were 7 minutes quicker than your winning time on that day. Lisa Bentley was third, but you and Lisa absolutely put Joe through the ringer to win that race. You smashed out a 3:04 marathon, and I think in the end she sort of came home about 2.5 minutes or something ahead of you that day, and you were sort of hauling her in. That was kind of a race for the ages, that one. What was that like, being the hunter on that day, knowing you'd banked to win and stuff? Was your psyche different? Were you a real sort of a pugilist, more of a scrapper that day, as opposed to the analytical, okay, here's my card and here's my numbers and stuff? Did that change the way you raced?
Not really. And those numbers are only really for the beginning, so that you're in, in the zone, or you're not going to burn out. I remember seeing Joe up the road in a whole group of people. This is on the run, and I remember Scott telling me, she's just up there, but then I just thought in my head, oh, no, it's okay. She can win. Well, I didn't give it to her. I definitely did not. But I remember thinking, oh, it's okay. So, there is one thing I regret a bit. But you do the best you can at the time. I was tired.
It's a really respectable.
Yeah, and we went fast. And I'm proud of that race. We went really fast.
Oh, you were incredibly fast that day. It was a very, very good day. And like Brian's saying, with yourself and Joe and Lisa Bentley, again, a very, very competitive podium and very competitive race. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him saying, and then I just thought, oh, I don't want to look. Yeah.
2004, Taupo didn't go quite so well for you. You sort of just slipped back a wee bit, but it was a really significant year in another race at the other end of the year. In Bustleton, it was the first year of Ironman Western Australia. Ultimately, you ended up winning that race. You crossed the line second, but ultimately you ended up winning it, albeit 16 months later. And that had huge financial ramifications for you, because you had to go to qualified Kona somewhere else, and so on. Just give us the background on the Old School Tri Show. Just explain sort of what happened there in 2004 in Bustleton, Western Australia.
I suppose it really even started because I had really low iron levels that year in the Ironman, and that I probably shouldn't have started. I was just so tired. And I think I knew that I needed, it was coming near an end to doing Ironman, injury-wise, and just energy to keep fighting. And so I knew, and I've always wanted to get in the top 10 in Hawaii. And so I knew there weren't that many options left. So that was gone from New Zealand. And so then I needed to chase another Ironman. I went to Lake Placid, but I had an ear infection and I was on antibiotics, so that wasn't great. And then that was the year after.
Yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, I went to Busselton, which was a great experience. And I placed second, and it was really hot. It was amazing. It was a beautiful race.
Yeah.
Beautiful scenery. And what was her name?
Rebecca Keat.
That's right, Rebecca Keat. Yeah, she got tested positive for drugs, and so I just kept waiting to hear. I don't remember when we found that out.
Well, I can actually, Mr. Train Spotter here. It took 16 months, and you found out the week of the 2006 Ironman New Zealand, which is another story in itself, that crazy day, that she had lost all her appeals. And so you effectively had 2 Ironman podiums in 1 week, really, because, of course, in Taupo. So you were declared the winner of Western Australia, but for you to get your Kona spot, that was where the Lake Placid. It seems like I've been going through your diaries, doesn't it? You went to Lake Placid.
No, it helps. So don't worry, it's good.
You went to Lake Placid to secure your Kona spot because
I really wanted to.
Yeah. So that was sort of how it played. So it was that would have been
It was more for the Kona spot that was important than the money. It was just to get a spot for Kona that I really wanted.
But that scenario of somebody testing positive and that drawn out scenario, that would have left you out of pocket because you would then had to dig in to go to Lake Placid and all of those things. So, I mean, the loser in that scenario was you're a sort of a real, I guess, victim, for want of another word.
Yeah, I know, and I just don't like the whole drugs and sport idea. So, it was an experience.
Yeah. Well, should we just talk about Kona a wee bit and your experiences at the World Championships over the years? And I know you were 13th one year, and you might have had another top 15 thrown in there as well.
I'm not sure, but I know I got 13th.
Yeah.
The first time I did it.
Yeah.
And I always just wanted to get in the top 10. Yeah, I probably did actually under 20 for another time, but it wasn't a great race. I just it's so hot. Just so hot that I am not good in the heat. I mean, I tried to think, and even the hot days here, I love them, but I actually really suffer. But I just really wanted to do well in the World Champs, so I kept trying to do well.
Yeah. Well, your results are,
it was fun. It was a fun journey.
Yeah. Great, solid, honest, professional performances over there. So, it's a brutal place, absolutely brutal place.
Yeah, 1 year. Oh my goodness, it might have been the year Cameron won. I don't really know, but oh my goodness, the winds were unbelievable. And you just wouldn't even go for a bike ride. Well, I wouldn't go for a bike ride out in that. The crosswinds across the ride up to the turnaround was just unbelievable.
Yeah. Ironman New Zealand, I think the last year you competed was 2006. And this was the year that the weather just went ballistic. And the race was delayed, then it was shortened and turned into a bike run, not even a full-blown duathlon, and so on. Your day that day and before the race and the stresses of not knowing quite what was going to unfold, what was that like for you, and what was it like for the other professional women around? What was sort of going on with everybody at that point?
I don't know. I just stuck to my own self. Debbie and my girlfriend Debbie came up, and I think I might have known that it was going to be my last Ironman New Zealand. So they came up and watched. I don't know. I do feel I get stressed before races, but on the day, I don't remember being stressed. I'm quite different. Because everything is planned and controlled. Well, I've got control over it. And I know I think we even took a sleeping bag down. We could just tell that things were going. Maybe we were warned the night before that there might be some delays and stuff, but we were so organised. We had extra food in case it was delayed, and I didn't panic at all. I just stuck to our little group. I don't remember. I wasn't panicked. No, and then when they said it was going to be a duathlon, because I remember saying years and years ago that I'm going to finish the triathlon sport the minute things turn into a duathlon. Well, so the last standard course race I ever did was a New Zealand Champs that turned into a duathlon. That was in Napier, and then I knew that was definitely going to be it when the Ironman turned into a duathlon, just because I love duathlons. And so I thought, oh, well, it's meant to be.
Yeah. It was an insane day. I remember talking to you afterwards and just about how hard it was, because it was blowing an absolute gale, wasn't it? It was just insanely strong winds and horizontal rain at times as well.
I don't remember the rain. I just remember the rain.
I think that came later. Yeah.
Oh, did it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it would have been going all day, wouldn't it, with the time trial? Yeah, that's a big effort for the organisers doing that.
Leading into races, Karyn, you're saying about having your plan and your process. Did that evolve much over the years, or do you always have you always been a bit of a planner and a process type person?
Yeah, always planned. Yeah. I definitely like knowing where I'm going. Clearly thought out. Yeah.
And is that right?
Isn't everyone like that though? Do you think?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Karyn,
you'd be surprised at how we had somebody who will remain nameless, but wasn't a pro. One of your mates, Brian, that set their alarm clock for an hour too late at the half just a couple of weeks ago. They set their alarm clock an hour later.
Yeah, both alarm clocks.
So organised to have two alarm clocks, but got the time wrong on both of them. I mean,
yes, you came sprinting down to the start line.
but it's interesting. So on that process, is it a mental process, or is it right down to how your gear is all organised and how you're going to get into transition? And
both. Absolutely everything. Scott and I would practice changing a spare wheel, a spare tyre every time. I'd have enough spare tyre, just everything, absolutely everything. Yeah. Thought about it all.
Yeah. So you had a great ally in Scott. You were both very much on the same page.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Awesome.
But when you look back now, I guess coming up to almost, getting close to 20 years since you were racing and so on. If you look back now, what would you sort of, the older Karyn tell the younger version of Karyn? What advice would you give her, sort of race-wise? Anything, or would you just do it all the same? Would you change anything at all?
I would not do it all the same. I would do what I did in the end, because I've really, for a long time, got so nervous beforehand that I just wouldn't sleep well. And I remember I asked Steve Gurney, actually, after a coast to coast in a pub once, I said, how do you enjoy, how do you cope with the pressures of racing? And he introduced me to this lovely couple, Dorian and Graham Felton, who helped him, who also helped Richard Hadley as well, actually.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. Just this older couple that gave mental advice, and that changed everything. But that was quite later on. That was actually before Busselton. That was my first race that I practiced. I knew I needed to change when the night before I did Rote. I just didn't sleep. And, you can't stay awake mentally for 9.5 hours, 10 hours without sleeping. It's just not good for you. And things were getting worse the nerves. I think because I knew it was coming to an end and you just wanted to do so well. Yeah, they helped me massively.
Yeah.
What sort of things were that? Was that just about how to process the nerves to get yourself race ready and that kind of thing? Or what was that like?
Yeah. I can't remember what we did, but it was huge.
It worked, so that's the main thing.
Yeah. It was just changed everything. Taking less pressure, taking the pressure away, enjoying it, just changing your mind.
Yeah, you were working through the professional career. You were working full time as a podiatrist through all of this, and we haven't sort of mentioned that. So, how tough was that? I mean, our friend Ian Heppenstall, I think, described you as being the best professional woman in the world of Ironman who has a full-time job. That's kind of a pretty cool title. You deserve a Kona spot for that reason alone. How tough was it juggling, the two careers, if you like?
Yeah, I did, of course, hard, but I think I liked that because it took less pressure off, just training, and I enjoy the mixture. Yeah. I mean, everything was always, you had to make sure things were done. But I didn't really mind that. I liked the hardness of that.
Yeah. Do you looking back now, do you miss the sport? Do you miss competing?
I don't. I enjoyed it. I don't miss. What do I don't miss? I loved bike. I loved going for long runs and long bike rides and seeing the scenery and the feeling that did for you.
Yeah.
No, I had enough of racing.
Yeah.
No, enough of speed work and hard stuff. Yeah.
So for you, Karyn, at the end of your career of Ironman racing, you were happy to go, that's me, I'm done.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Yeah. I do remember, I think in the first few years afterwards, I think it was sad, but I don't feel that now. No, I don't feel that now. I love, when friends are doing the Ironman, work colleagues or something, I get really interested in how they're going, and yeah.
Do you tell them if one of your colleagues said, "Oh, look, I'm thinking about doing the Ironman"? Do they understand that they're talking to a former New Zealand Ironman champion?
They don't. No, and we were. I think our son, he's 9, so he told us someone at school or something that my dad's on YouTube, and so I think one of the cricket mums said to me, or soccer mums during the middle of the year, and they said, "No wonder Hunter's so good at running. We've discovered what you used to do."
That's lovely.
But people have no idea because it was so long ago.
Yeah. But look, you've subsequently you've carried on your career in podiatry, and you've got wonderful Scott beside you, and you've got 2 beautiful children.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and you've got this wonderful legacy that you've built in the sport. So be well proud. Be well proud.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. And we thank you for your time, giving up your time. We've taken the Balances away from their family 2 nights in a row. We spoke to Scott 24 hours ago, and he's on parenting duty now. And we're really grateful for your time this evening with us.
That's cool. Thanks, guys. Cool. It was great. Thanks for asking us.